Sanjay?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
Start.
Okay. Okay. So to this, um, okay. Something I have, I'll just unhide all these screens. Yes. General comments are the higher order schemes are more accurate as far as the truncation error is concerned. I'm just repeating, discretization errors are concerned, but they depend on more number of points. So if you divide 10 centimeter into 10 parts, each will be 1 centimeter, you'll have 10 points. If you divide to 100 centimeter, yes, the delta X is very small. Discretization will be very small, but you have 100 points now. So more number of points are there. So the computational time can increase significantly now. The number of operations also increase correspondingly. Thereby, the round of error may increase. We have seen this already. Okay. With decreasing delta x, your truncation error decreases, but round of error increases. Overall round of error because you do more number of points and more number of computations. So, from these simple observations, a high-speed computer. High-speed means you have more number of points. It is good to reduce the truncation error. So you can, because the computation time increases, high speed computer will do it faster with more significant bits. So if you have a 128 bit, it will have less round of error. So you can go for a higher order scheme. So with more significant bits, 128 bit computer is more better than 64 bit, which is better than 32 bit because round of error will decrease. So sometimes you may come to this perplexing, situation. Your program is running on one hardware. If you run it on another hardware, it's not. It is diverging. In this, it's converging. There, it's diverging, or you may get a slightly different result in both computers. This is all because of the round off. You should see whether the significant digits are same in both, and the computer architecture is same in both. Only then you will get exactly the same result. Okay. So the same code may not run in one machine. It may run in some other machine. If you tweak some parameters, it will start running. So all these confusions are because of this difference in round off digits and also the way in which they compute. Like each computer manufacturer will have their own algorithms for multiplication and division and complicated expressions like exponential, tan x. There are standard ways, but there may be minute differences in by the way in which the chips are arranged and how they calculate. When they are done, thousands of times or millions of times over and over, the error may be different. Okay. So finite difference equation. Just hang on. FDs. These are just applications of finite differences to the PDE. Earlier, finite differences we found only for single term like dou e by dou x or dou squared u by dou x squared. Now, an equation may contain many such derivatives. So, when you substitute the appropriate finite differences in these PDEs, what you get is a FDE, not finite differences, but finite difference equations. Okay. So finite differences are calculated for a given partial or total derivative. And you can also calculate total derivatives using this. In a PDE, there will be many partial differences. Then we substitute the partial difference for each derivative in the PDE. The resulting algebraic equation is known as the finite difference equation, FD of the original PDE. Again, you may have, one level of accuracy for one derivative, another derivative is another derivative. Problem is, which will work? First problem. So it should be stable. With every iteration, the error is becoming larger and larger. Then the solution will not converge. It will blow up and diverge. Okay, you get the NaN error finally at some point of time. First thing is, should find out which one is converging or stable. Second is, if there are more candidates of combinations which are stable, which one will be more accurate? Obviously, the one with if you have a very high, assuming you have a very high speed computer and a computer with a large number of significant digits, which of these will give the most accurate answer? Okay, or higher order schemes. When you use higher order schemes, it is better to use them with more significant digits of significant bits. A computer which has more significant bits. So resulting algebraic equation known as the finite difference equation of the original PDE. Obviously is an approximate representation of the PDE at a grid point. Yes, we understand that. We acknowledge that. By this time, we should know. An example is given of a one-dimensional heat conduction equation. It's a very simple equation, good enough to illustrate the point. Okay. So we are going to learn only the basics of CFT in this course. So we deal with very simple equation. The simplest, one of the simple ones is one-dimensional heat conduction equation, which is left-hand side you have the capital T denotes temperature, small t denotes time, x denotes x direction in space. Alpha is a constant. You can take it as a constant initially. Okay. Sometimes alpha is also not a constant, but we'll look at it later. Right now, we assume that alpha is a constant. Okay. So dou T by dou T, dou capital T by dou small t on the left hand side, the rate of change of temperature with time is equal to some constant into the second derivative of time with space. So this is a second derivative of temperature with space. Dou squared T by dou x squared. For two-dimensional, you'll have dou squared T by dou y squared. For three-dimensional, you'll have additional dou squared T by dou z squared on the side. Just hold on for a second, please. Okay, so now are you able to hear me, Sanjay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You're able to see the screen also.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we'll introduce two superscripts. Okay, this time and space are different different things, correct? Different dimensions. like x and y. X is different, y is different directly. Now x is space and t is time. So for to denote, we are going to cut these into small pieces, right? It's a continuous thing. We are going to cut into small pieces. Assume you are having snake goat curry. You have to cut the snake goat the small pieces before you can make the curry. Yes. So we are cutting it. The dou t by dou capital T by dou small t. We discretize left hand side by first order differences. The main thing is for time we use superscript n. Okay. T1, T2, T3, which means that there is a small delta T between them. T2 minus T1 is delta T, T3 minus T2 is delta T. Delta T is constant. Whereas for T1, T2, T3, we say generally Tn. T superscript n. Okay. So superscript denotes to time. Now subscript denotes the space, let's say. Okay. So x direction is only one direction in space here. Subscript I we know that I comma j we saw earlier. Here only I is there. The 10th point, 11th point, 12th point. So I is equal to 10 means I plus 1 is equal to 11, I plus 2 is equal to 12. Okay. So now we are writing it. The earlier PDE is for generally it covers everywhere in space. So the FTE also we write generally for all points in space. So this equation is then right. Dou t by dou t minus alpha dou square t by dou x squared is 0. So first term on left hand side is temperature at time n plus 1 minus temperature at n at the same point I. Subscript for both are I. So Tn plus 1 at I minus Tn at I by delta t. So at the same point, you're not varying the space, but you're varying only in time. That's what it says. That is how you're discretizing that first partial derivative. The second one, okay. So this is, what is this? Forward in time. N plus 1 and n, correct? So forward differencing in time. It is first order, no? It's first order accurate. So it's order of delta t. We have seen already forward differencing and backward differencing are first order accurate, but central differencing is second order accurate. Okay. Now the second term, dou squared t by dou x squared, we replace with a second order differencing for the second derivative. If you go back to earlier slides which you have, you will find that one possible way of doing this second order differencing for the second derivative, dou squared t by dou x squared is this one what is given here. T at I plus 1 at nth time step minus 2. See, in this, when you vary along space, you keep the time constant. At the same time, how does it vary? How the variation looks in space? First one, at the same point, how does it vary with time? The first term. Second term is at the same time n, it deals with variations in space. So Tn at I plus 1 minus 2Tn at I plus Tn at I minus 1 by delta x whole square. This is the difference in T, which is second order accurate for the second derivative into alpha. Plus what is the truncation error? Because of the time term, it is of the order of delta t. Because of the space term, it's of the order of delta x whole square. Okay. So this is the kind of errors we make. Order of delta t comma x delta x whole square will be. So first order in time and second order in space. a small short way of doing is FTCS, forward in time, central in space. It's just a short way of doing this kind of discretization. Now, this is actually a linear algebraic equation. There is no t squared or anything, capital T squared here. They're all linear equations. But how many unknowns are there? Can you say? Akshay Nivasni, how many unknowns are here? Is she there? Akshay Nivasni, are you there? Surya Prasad. Surya Prasad. Hello, Surya Prasad. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You look at this equation, okay? Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Look only at the FDE. Left hand side is PDE. Then 0 is separating it from the FDE. Forget about the order of delta T and order of delta X whole square. How many unknowns are here? This right hand side equation. Can you guess? You don't have to know, you have to guess. That's all. Just make it right. How many? Tell me, I didn't hear you properly.
Sir, I said 2.
No. There are actually 4. Because what is T at I minus 1 at N? This is one unknown. See, remember, they are all starting with some guess values. We don't know the real values. Okay, Surya Prasad. So, what is the temperature at the point I at the nth time step? We don't know, let's say. We don't know that. Okay. To start with, we don't know. But finally, we want to know. Then what is I minus 1 at the same time step? That also we don't know. So 2 unknowns. I plus 1 at n, that also we don't know. So 3 unknowns. Then t at n plus 1, this and this are same. Tin and Tin are same. T at n plus 1, the next time step, this time step we don't know. Next time step, obviously we don't know. So there are 4 unknowns in this equation. Okay, Surya Prasad. Alpha is a constant which assumed to be known. Delta T and delta X is our choice. Okay, so we assume they are known quantities. Okay, Surya Prasad.
Yes, sir.
So for one point, you have 4 unknowns at one time step. If you take the time step as constant, how many points? If you take, 100 points, you'll have 100 unknowns on this right hand side. At every point at time is I, time is n, you don't know, correct? At every point, the n plus 1th also you want to know. So it will be 100 plus 100. 200 unknowns you will have for one equation to know at one point. Or otherwise, if you have number of time steps, if you have 10 time steps and you have 100 points, the number of unknowns will be 100 into 10. Let's say we don't bother about the every time how it's evolving, suppose, okay? We don't bother, we only want the final steady state equation. Then you say that the unknown is, 100. Because how you get it, you don't really bother. Final answer should be correct. I want the steady state solution only. But if you're looking at the evolving of the time step, then there are 10 times 100, which is 1000 unknowns are there. But then if you are looking at the final answer, only the 100 times step I want. Finally, what is the steady state solution? Assuming it reaches a steady state. So you see, it doesn't, here you had only two unknowns. Sorry, only one unknown P, left hand side. Right hand side, if you divide into more number of points, where you get the complication, you have more number of unknowns. Do you agree with me, Surya Prasad? Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Please.
Is it clear for everybody? If you have doubt, you please ask me. It's an important point to understand. Okay, no doubt. So we'll go to the next slide. Now, for this simple equation, we are trying to find whether our choice of this finite differences, which is first order in time for the temperature and second order in space for the temperature, is it going to be stable or not? We have to check. That is, if you continue this, do I have any assurance that the error in the next time step will be less than the error in the current time step? Which means that if you just keep on doing the calculation, finally the error is reducing. That's all it can. Error is reducing. But if it starts increasing, then you can't have this combination. You may have to choose some other different scheme for the time step and this thing. For example, you may choose first order for or second order for the time, or first order for the dou square t by dou x squared, or third order, and then use that combination. You will get a longer, shorter equation. Whether that is stable or this is stable, we don't know. So the first thing is we say that the error should keep decreasing with your time step or calculation, your iteration. That is the first condition for stability, the most important condition for stability. See, just recapturing what you have done. We had a PDE here. Now we replace the PDEs by, for the same thing, you have forward in time, backward in time, central in time, some other, order in time. Dou square t with dou x squared, you can have so many kinds of differences can be had. We have seen last class. Okay, first order, second order, third order, fourth order. These are more orders. Now here you have chosen forward differencing in time and central second order differencing for the space, second derivative, and formed an equation. Whether this choice is going to converge, that's a big question. So if it converges, we call the FDE is stable. We're not talking about PDE. PDE is already there. FDE, this is the FDE, okay, after the zero. Whether this FDE is stable or not. Okay. Now, let's look at the round off error. The stability is introduced only by round off errors, correct? If it can be exactly solved, okay, then it's not through computer. Computer is going to truncate parts of this. So we want to see whether with that truncation, is it going to be stable on the computer? Numerically. So this Ti at n plus 1. Let's say the exact solution of the FDE is something known. What you are going to get is that exact solution plus or minus some error. Pi, you have 3.1415, blah, 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 100 decimals, million decimals. But you are chopping it off at 3.14. Whatever you're chopping off is the error, round off error. Okay. Now, whether this error is going to make my system stable or unstable, that is what we are going to investigate. Is it clear? Any doubts now? Okay. Next one. Let epsilon be the round off error. Okay. Now let's substitute this in the original equation. Instead of Ti n plus 1, you may get Ti at n plus 1 original value plus some epsilon, the error, magnitude of error, plus or minus. let's call it plus. Plus epsilon at n plus 1 I. Similarly, the epsilon error at every point, the epsilon at n. So you write this equation. This is equal to this FTE, right? What you computer is the actual value plus the error. Both should be equal. Okay. So the actual value will cancel off each other. What will remain is the error. So the error will actually satisfy this original equation. Whatever the error should satisfy this original equation. So this is a important condition which is there. That is why you are writing this with the round off error is epsilon. Okay. You work it out yourself, it will become very clear. Instead of ti at n plus 1, you put that, ti at n plus 1 plus error. That's what a computer is calculating. When you equate both, all this original equation will cancel. Left hand side, right hand side cancel. What will remain is only the error term for each of this. Okay. So that is why you are getting an equation like this for the error. The error is actually satisfying the original, the FDE. This is an absolutely necessary condition, which will be satisfied anyway. So that is why you are getting error at n plus 1 I minus error at n I by delta t is alpha into the right hand side. Same way, error at the corresponding time and corresponding point. Now, for the FDE to be stable, it has to be stable. Then what is the condition? At any n, at any time step, at any point I, the error should be less than that at the previous time step. If this is happening, then we can be hopeful that if you do it many number of times, then the error will become less than a very small value which you don't care about. Okay. So the FD has to be stable. The modulus of epsilon at n plus 1 by epsilon at n at point I should be less than or equal to 1. Okay. Now the above condition, if you substitute this condition into this equation, you will have a condition for stability, which will look like this. Okay. How to derive this, we'll look at later. Okay. We'll come to that. How to do this from here to here? It's not so easily done. So that is why we are skipping it for the time being. Okay. Now this will lead to the condition that alpha delta t by delta x whole squared is less than or equal to 1 by 2. This is a condition for stability. This gives now a relationship between delta t and delta x. So you can't choose any delta t and delta x. If you choose a certain delta x, then you should choose the delta t to satisfy this equation, inequality rather, satisfies inequality. Otherwise, your solution definitely is going to blow up. Even if it is stable, there may be unforeseen, schemes which may make it blow up. But already we know that don't. If this is more than a half, please don't do that, because the solution is not going to converge. It's not stable. Any doubt? Dear students, no doubts?
No doubts.
Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Now there are some unstable difference equations are also there. We look at a different PDE now. This is called first order wave equation. It looks very similar to that, the one is second, not different from the heat conduction equation, but it's called first order wave equation. dou squared u by dou t plus c into dou u by dou x is 0. Okay. Now, if you use, for example, central differencing for x and forward differencing for time. Central differencing is second order in time, so second order in space. Similarly, this time differencing is first order in space. Earlier we got a condition for the heat conduction equation. This one, if you substitute, you will find that if you substitute the error, instead of you put epsilon I and then you do that manipulation just telling that. That method is known as von Neumann stability method, named after a great scientist von Neumann. We can show that it's unconditionally unstable, which means always this is unstable. Whatever value of delta t and delta x you choose, don't go this way. This will become unstable. Then how to make it stable? Now you are talking. That is that we'll look at it later. By choosing some other differencing scheme, we can make it stable. Now, now you replace ui at n. Ui at n, which is the second term in left hand side. Ui n plus 1 minus ui at n. You replace that term by an average value between grid points I plus 1 I minus. It means this is, instead of ui at n, you put it is ui minus 1 plus ui plus 1 by 2 at time n. You use that kind of differencing and do, then you will say get the following condition. So that is the trick for this equation. Okay, this the usual thing doesn't work straightforward. So you replace that, people find that yes, now by error analysis, von Neumann stability, you get this condition. C, capital C is some small c is this constant in the equation here. Sorry, the right hand side, same thing. Should be small c here. The capital C is some other constant given by small c into delta t by delta x. If it is less than or equal to 1, it will be stable. Now this capital C is known as Courant number, and this condition is known as Courant Friedrich-Levy condition, named after three scientists who worked this field. Courant is one person, Friedrich is one person, Levy is another person. So in short, it's known as CFL condition. It's a very, very important thing. So important that for complicated equations also, without going into a lot of details for this one, we just use this Courant number. We just use this Courant number, assuming that it will hold. There's some assumption there. There are many cases where you use a Courant number. So remember this C into delta t by delta x is equal to, it should be less than or equal to 1. That is the Courant condition. So if you fix the delta x, you have to fix the delta t accordingly, or vice versa. If you fix the delta t, then you fix the delta x also accordingly, so that the process is stable. The numerical process is stable. For hyperbolic equations, okay, it can be shown that CFL number must be less than unity of stability, but should be as high as possible for maximum accuracy. Now we'll come to a very conflicting this one. If you make your this delta x extremely small, if the CFL extremely small, this number you make it small, yes, it is much less than unity, means your solution you get will not be accurate, unfortunately. It can be shown physically, which we'll do at a later point of time. The physical inaccuracy will be more if you do this. So if you make it just equal to 1, okay, or slightly less than 1, then you'll get maximum accuracy. Now, how this is done, this puzzling statement, how we are going to prove this, we'll prove later. So we'll be revisiting the non stability criterion at a later point in this course, the CFL and how it is, why it should be made. We will at a later point we'll come back to this. Okay. Now next is transformation grids, but I think we will continue with this in the next class. So far so good. Any doubts? So shall I take the attendance and wind up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Attendance taken. Can you stop the recording?